Okay, the July 10, 2018 meeting of the West Covina Community and Senior Services Commission is hereby called to order. Commissioner Din, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will take the roll, please.
Chair Joe Kaufman.
Present.
Chair Leticia Lopez.
present.
Commissioner Blackburn. Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Din.
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis.
Here.
Commissioner Pena.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here. Oral communications, we have a yellow card. And Sandra Taylor, would you like to address the commission?
First of all, good afternoon. I'm Sandra Taylor, and I am a 43-year-plus resident homeowner of this great city. And I did not realize that Commissioner Kaufman was going to speak on this particular subject, and the reason why I'm here is because I saw it on the agenda where it had been just received and filed, and that is regarding the Miss West Covina pageant, or whatever you want to call it. After having attended a number of events throughout the city and other cities as well, I noticed that most cities had a Miss Pomona, a Miss Diamond Bar, a Miss Walnut, a Miss Covina, and several other Miss El Monte and Miss South El Monte. So when I was coming off of this commission, that was one of the things that I stated that I would like to see happen, is that our city come into compliance and have a Miss West Covina to represent us at various functions, etc. Never heard anything else about it until maybe about 4 or 5 months ago when I was called into a meeting. This is something that I believe would help the city come together, because there are so many people who have expressed an interest in it, and that they are just so elated and excited. And I've been working in this community, I know, for at least 20 years, and I've never seen anything to generate as much excitement as I have with the Miss West Covina. It doesn't necessarily have to be Miss West Covina. When I was ambassador for the West Covina Chamber of Commerce, there were female and male, because we were ambassadors. This could also be a West Covina ambassador or whatever. It's not an easy task, I tell you that. People say, oh, just go out and raise the money. No, in order to raise money, you have to have a 501c3. And that's not the easiest thing to get. We do have support, but I didn't make any efforts to come forth to provide any input, because I wanted the request to go to council to see what kind of feedback we would get from them. But instead, a report was made to the council, and apparently, I guess the report was received and filed. So that's why I'm here. I want to know, get an update. I've already heard from your chairman. But I think that we really need to do something to generate some excitement in this community. It's dead here. I mean, D-E-A-D, dead. Nothing. Bill, I see you smiling over there,
Well,
but
Speaker has exceeded
I
their
can't
time.
agree with that. I think we just had a fabulous 4th of July Day event and a lot of other great things going on in the community.
I'm sorry, Nicole. What'd you say?
I said you have exceeded your time.
Oh, nobody told me anything about a time limit.
On the agenda, there's a
And
5-minute
I didn't
period.
look at that.
Okay.
I was just doing a card.
Sure.
And
this-
no
just wanted to
problem,
let you
no
know.
problem. You know, I can always come back, because my backup is not even here. But anyway,
Let me ask you one question. Is, assuming that, well, when we first heard about the Miss West Covina pageant, it was part of the night market program, which may or may not go forward. Is the Miss West Covina pageant independent of that, or would that go on even if there isn't a...
that would be independent of that,
Okay.
you know.
Thank you very much, former
Thank you for
Commissioner Taylor.
allowing me the time
Tam,
to
Tam,
speak.
come up, Tam.
Mr. Chair, are we gonna discuss about it a little bit?
We are going to discuss it later on in
It's
the
on the
agenda.
agenda.
Yeah, I did want to, if the chair will allow me to clarify something that Ms. Taylor mentioned. There was no report that was officially given to council. This was an agenda item that was requested to be agendized at this commission meeting to discuss. The receive and file is simply to receive the information and file it. There is no report that was given to the council.
I know there was a presentation made before council, but that was in the public comment section. There was never any agenda item on this matter before the council.
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to address the commission? Seeing no response, we'll move on to consent calendar and approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 8th, 2018. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve as submitted?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Stewart.
Second.
There being a motion to approve and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. New business, the selection of the chair of the Community and Senior Services Commission. I would nominate Vice Chair Lopez as the next chairman of the Community and Senior Services Commission. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, is there a second to my nomination?
Second.
Okay, may we have a vote for Commissioner Lopez to be the new chairman of the Community and Senior Services Commission. Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Din,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Chair Kaufman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
And the nomination passes 8-0.
Okay, so get out of the seat, dude, you're done.
Well,
We have to vote on Vice Chair.
change the seat, or you can have that.
Not yet, not yet.
So we need to nominate a vice chair.
Well,
Before you leave, I'm kidding.
Do
Okay,
I
so-
continue with that, or does Commission,
No, I
Chairman?
think
No,
Lopez?
you still-
you do, and then after that, your last
Okay.
official.
Right. After the full rotation, then you turn it over to.
Okay. Is there a nomination for vice chair of the commission?
I'll nominate Glenn Kennedy.
No, I've already been chair. Tam hasn't been, and our new commissioner.
I believe that the next in seniority is Commissioner Din.
And I will decline.
You will decline?
Fine. Okay, I
Wow.
think that the next two members were
No, let's-
Commissioners Stewart and Blackburn, and Commissioner Stewart has graced us with his presence, so I
Dave,
would
come on, dear.
nominate, or you... would you
No,
nominate?
I'm just, we all been chair here. I would, the seniority, you go by seniority, but let's go by somebody who hasn't done this before, give them an opportunity. Dave, you've been chair, haven't you?
Not of this commission,
Okay,
in the planning commission, chair twice.
yeah.
All right, let's vote.
So is that a nomination for Commissioner Stewart?
No, I would like to nominate our new commissioner here.
Well, we have, well,
It's all right, it's all right. Do what you gotta do.
There is a nomination on the floor.
there is a
So-
nomination.
I'll
Is
second
there,
that.
is there a second for the nomination of Commissioner Pena?
Commissioner Din.
Then seconded.
Okay. Madam Secretary, may we have a vote? A roll call.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox?
Sure.
Chair Kaufman?
Abstain.
Vice Chair Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
All abstain.
Commissioner Pena?
Is there any way to have a little bit of further discussion, or do we have to like do this right now?
You can have further discussion, there's clarification. So the
Just
nomination is to nominate Commissioner Stewart.
If you don't want to do it, tell us, and we'll backtrack.
Just being new, I'm not sure the responsibilities as far as if it's just the same thing as coming here, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to take on more than I can chew with my current schedule and disappoint anybody. So I just, as far as if it's any additional, you know, a lot more responsibilities, I want to make sure I'm able to do it.
So the responsibilities are to basically be present and a commissioner, a voting commissioner, like the rest of the commissioners. In the absence of the chair, you would fill in to run the meetings.
If you don't feel up to it, I'll backtrack.
Commissioner Stewart.
The nomination is for
Oh,
So see, so now we have to do it again because it's.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
So,
Sure, if you would like to amend the motion, if you would like to decline and amend the motion, then you can do so.
okay, at this time I will decline and we can amend.
Okay, so we'll go,
Well, okay, let's back up a second. Were you saying that Commissioner Stewart should not be considered because he's been the chairman of a different commission in the
No.
past?
no, I would
Okay,
just,
because I feel like-
because I was just saying that I was trying to give everybody a chance. He's been commissioner, I've been commissioner, I've been the head of the commission, a couple of commissions. I'm just trying to give everybody an opportunity. Steve
Well-
Cox is president of the school board, you know?
How many times?
A few
How
times,
many times, huh?
at least 3 times, 4 times.
Or 4 or 5, or maybe even.
Yeah. You
Well,
go.
I put a lot of weight into seniority, and we've
Okay,
really,
well-
and the years that I've been on the commission, we basically
No,
gone
wasn't
as far as
a
seniority.
slam
and the
or
last
an insult,
person
I just-
to the last person to not be chairman, and next in line would be Commissioner
Okay,
Stewart.
then we'll go that way.
So, okay, is there a second to the nomination of Commissioner Stewart?
I'll second that.
Okay, Madam Secretary, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Din?
and this is for Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Chair Kaufman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Commissioner Pena?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes. And by unanimous vote, Commissioner Stewart is elected vice chairman. And at this point, is the meeting turned over to Commissioner Lopez?
Traditionally, we do the entire rotation, so that would be the selection as well, but it is at the discretion of the commission, whatever you would like to do.
Okay, so you're talking about doing the...
The ad hoc committee.
Yeah,
ad hoc.
okay, we'll do the committees. The selection of ad hoc committee members. The first committee is the Community Development Block Grant Committee. Who are the present 3 members?
Present 3 members are for Community Block Grant Committee is Blackburn, Lewis, and Stewart.
Okay, and would those 3 commissioners want to continue on the Community Development Block Grant Committee? Well, Commissioner Blackburn isn't here.
And I do know that he has expressed interest in staying, he does like that committee.
Okay, Commissioner Lewis, do you wish to continue?
I'll continue so long as there isn't someone else who wants to step in. I've been on that ad hoc committee for, I think, probably seven years or something like that, so.
Okay. Commissioner Stewart, do you wish to continue on that committee?
I do, I enjoy the committee and
Okay, is there someone who's interested in joining the committee to replace Commissioner Lewis? Seeing none?
Well, I'll take it.
Okay, so the three current members of the Community Development Block Grant Committee will continue on another term, Commissioners Blackburn, Lewis, and Stewart. Who are the members of the Capital Improvement Project?
Arredondo, Kaufman, Lewis, and Lopez.
Okay, well, Commissioner Redondo is no longer on the commission, so we have at least one opening. I would wish to continue on the committee. And Commissioner Lewis, would you want to continue on this committee? Same answer.
I'm going to leave it to the same answer. so-
Okay, Commissioner Lopez.
Oh, I'd like to stay.
Okay, so we have two openings on the capital improvement project. Is anyone interested in joining this wonderful committee that does a lot of great work?
I just have one opening. You're staying, right?
I'm staying, yes, so we
Okay,
have
so-
two openings, well, one or two, depending on, yeah. Commissioner Pena, since I don't believe you're on any committee, are you?
Not at this time, not when I joined.
Would you be
when I
interested
started
in joining the
November.
capital improvement?
Well, I was kind of waiting until you got to the end to see if the sports one was open.
Well, you can be on more than one.
All right, sure, there we are.
Okay, anyone else? Commissioner Lewis, I guess you're still with us.
I guess so.
Okay, the capital improvement project will have Commissioners Pena, Lewis, Lopez, and myself going forward. And the senior subcommittee, who are the members of that?
Arredondo, Den, Kaufman, and Stewart.
Okay, Commissioner Din, do you wish to continue?
Yes.
And Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
So we do have one opening replacing Commissioner Redondo. Is there anyone interested?
And if I can interject, that was originally 3 commissioners, but there was an interest for additional commissioner to be on that, and so you can leave it at the 3, or you can still fill it with a 4th to replace Arredondo.
Okay, so is there anyone who is interested in joining this subcommittee? If not, you would? Okay, Commissioner Cox. Okay, going forward, the senior subcommittee will have Commissioners Din, Stewart, Cox, and myself. Okay, and the Sports Council, who are the current members of the Sports Council?
Prior Commissioner Bennett and Commissioner Kennedy.
Okay, Commissioner Kennedy, do you wish to continue?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and is there anyone who would like to take the spot? Okay, Commissioner Pena.
But it's going to take a lot of your time and chew up a lot of extra time that you don't,
He's not.
There, and-
if that's okay, you're going to do.
She's committed.
Yeah. Every sports.
Okay, so the Sports Council will be Commissioners Kennedy and Pena, and finally the Youth Council.
Current Commissioner is Den.
And Commissioner Din, would you like to continue?
Yes.
Okay, fine, that'll be Commissioner Din, and that is the staffing of the ad hoc committees.
Oh, we got one more. Don't we have one more?
Oh, homeless, the homeless subcommittee. We, okay.
You want
Or that's a separate item.
Make a motion and have a second to carry all that forward.
I'll move the selection of the ad hoc committee members as described by Chair Kaufman.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, roll call?
Just
Commissioner Den,
Yes.
Well,
Commissioner Cox,
We were already there.
I,
Chair Kaufman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
I,
Commissioner Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
And the motion passes 8-0. So the homeless subcommittee, is that staffed already, or is the homeless subcommittee staffed already?
No, that's where
Yeah,
she's
okay,
good.
yeah, that's a new one.
That's
committee
a new
we're
one,
adding, yeah. Okay, so how many members would we have?
So this was at the request of the last commission meeting by Commissioner Kennedy to create a homeless subcommittee. So it's up to the discretion of the commission. As you can see, we vary from 1 to 4 members. It really depends, as long as we don't have more than it's going to create a quorum. So it's up to the commission how many you would like to put on or what the interest is.
And I know Commissioner Kennedy, you're...
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm the one who complains the most.
Yeah, okay, and who else would be interested in joining this? Right. Okay, Commissioner
And
Lewis?
I'd like to
Commissioner
join that as well.
Lopez, anyone else? Commissioner Kim? Okay.
gee.
And Lewis. And Commissioner.
Yeah, so,
We got,
Okay.
he's on there, he's got 4 listed.
Kennedy, Lewis, Lopez, and Daniel. Is there
What's the
anyone else?
agenda, what's the agenda going to be?
I'm sorry?
What is the agenda going to be for this committee?
It's up to the committee to decide.
It's a new item for discussion, so it would be up to the commission to decide the parameters of.
This commission or those members? This commission or those members of this commission?
Yeah, I mean, usually there's a notion of what that committee is going to do when you're creating a subcommittee. So like CDBG, you're reviewing the CDBG sub-recipient applications. So seniors, you're taking information about senior programs and services. So is it just a blanket, you would like to go out and, you know, get information about homelessness in the community? Are you looking for more of the commissioners to do research in other communities to see what other communities are doing? It would, whatever pleases the commission.
Okay, well, I would defer to Commissioner Kennedy since it is his.
Well, we all know for the last, at least for me, I've noticed it for the last 30 years plus. We've had homeless, but it has exploded in the last few years. And we need to do something. We need to start somewhere. I don't know if you want to go out and count or go out and try to help. I'll give you a perfect example. We've got Daniel, who lives at the bus stop of Sunset and Merced. I've been trying to help this guy for a long time, since last year. Now, I think in March, I got a hold of Pat Benchop, and the Met team went out there and evaluated, and they took him to SC, and he disappeared. Well, he made his way back, and so I got a hold of Ron Allen, and the Met team went back out there again, and now he refused. And not only did he refuse, he threatened the social worker. So, you know, they had to leave him there. So this is another issue that we have to deal with. And I think as a committee, we should go out and see what we can do. Something is positive. Doing nothing. I mean, we sit here and do nothing will ever get done. You know, I know this Measure H thing is going to take, I know it's in the infancy, and you know everything takes 10 years, if not 20. So nothing's going to get done in our lifetime, and I know that. So, but we need to start somewhere. And so whatever the parameters are, you know, I'm good with that. Wherever you want to set them at.
Perhaps, well, go ahead.
I do agree. I agree that there are those who want to be helped, and then there are those who don't. And I can speak from experience because when we were younger, we were homeless. So we lived in the children and mother shelter. So, but when you are homeless, you don't want people to know. So actually, the irony is the people who need the help don't get the help because they're embarrassed. I mean, when we were younger, we were embarrassed. But the resources is great. And then there are those who don't want the help. So I know like at my parks, I have a few homeless there, and some who do admit that they don't want to, they have family to go to. I have one lady who said she doesn't want to go home to her daughters because they make so many rules and she just prefers the freedom and so forth. But she works with us. So at the park, at least, you know, out of sight, out of mind, she will, you know, when we have games and so forth, she'll like, oh, okay, let me go clean up and then go do her thing and then just come back. But that's her decision and that's her choice. And then there are those, I had another patron who is a father with children. He said the best time to being homeless is during the summer because he gets to stay at the beach. And at the beach, nobody knows you're homeless. But in the wintertime, it's hard. And he didn't want to utilize the resources because they're going to separate the children. Because usually they keep the children with the mothers and then the fathers. So we provided all the resources possible for them. And fortunately, he's good. So you are correct, and I do know that gentleman on that bus stop that stays there. And it's sad because the community are there, and they need it. They need to sit down. I see elderly seniors who wants to take the bus, and they're just standing there because they're uncomfortable. They're not able to sit down. They're not able to, you know, utilize certain things. So I do agree on that. Of course, you know, working with whatever resources we have, the county and so forth, but also enforcement, and even new policies and new rules to not allow certain situations. So with this on leading that, I mean, if there's other...
I would like to help the people who want help. you know, I know you go out there and a lot of them want to just be left alone. They want to be free. That's their way of being free, okay? I got that, but there are some people who actually need the help, who are willing to get help. So that's, if we can help one person, we've done our job. You know, we can't help everybody, but we can at least try.
And then can I add to that, since, what Letty's saying, like having open lines of communication, because like every day, that we're reading Facebook and West Covina Buzz especially, you're hearing community, why is there a homeless man sitting there? Why is this, what's the city doing? So can we as a commission be that liaison between the community and the homeless? Because, they don't want to approach them, it's like, I can't take the bus because and there's no lines of communication between the community and the homeless population. So maybe we can start having open lines of communication, maybe meeting with the public and see what they want us to do instead of always accusing the city. Well, why isn't the city, what do you want us to do? We can't literally come and move those people out of those benches or kick them out. There are laws protecting them too. So, it's every day that I'm reading those things and I get really frustrated. I know a lot of people get frustrated too. Like, we don't know what to do. And so maybe we can start by having these open lines of communication first. And see where they're coming from, where we're coming from as a city, what sort of resources are out there.
Anybody that went by Walmarado Park today can see exactly what's going on. It was a bad day at Walmarado. I've never seen so many people there. Sleeping on the lawn. They're everywhere. There's also a church there. They have
At the corner of Vine and
they got a couple
Walnut,
people sitting there. But they were everywhere today there. There were people sleeping on the lawn with nothing around. They didn't have anything with them.
Maybe we should ask the city manager how far we can push the issue.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
You're the boss. You're the boss.
Well, I think that, everybody's experienced or seen homelessness in our community, but I haven't heard exactly what it is you guys are wanting to do about that. Are you, other than it sounds like maybe a couple of you want to interact with the homeless population, but is there a certain goal that you wish to accomplish? I think Commissioner Din brought up a point about educating the public. So are you looking to educate the public? Are you looking to educate the homeless about the services available? What is it that the committee is trying to do?
We can do all that. I feel that we should try to help as many people as we can. But we got to do something. Doing nothing, we get nothing done. At least try to do something. I don't know how far we can push. I would love to go out and talk to everybody. You know me, I'll go talk to anybody and see if they want services. All they can do is say no.
And then what?
And then you move on.
And then what?
Why isn't
Then you move, what can you do?
And then they sit there and no difference. The same people are gonna show up
I would
there. Same people are
suggest
gonna show up.
Yeah, but if I could take one person off the street, that's one less person that we have.
Yeah,
have at
and
the park.
then that leaves room for one more to come
Well,
back in.
well, it's a
And
vicious
just-
cycle, brother.
What?
You know?
No, it isn't.
I would suggest that the committee meets and puts together a platform or a structure, some type of a structure and suggestions, and then bring it back in the next
Well,
commission.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we need to get a game plan together.
so if I can interject, I would go a step further, that I think what needs to happen is that if the members, which I understand so far have been nominated to be on there, is Kennedy, Lewis, Lopez, and Din, that if that is motioned and second and approved by the commission, that meet with staff, PD, and potentially our city attorney, because what we're going to have to discuss is that if you're going and acting on behalf of the city, there are certain things that you need to be careful of, not only what you say and how you conduct yourself, and we need to make sure that we're all on the same page about that, because I understand some are going to want to do outreach, others are going to want to do education, but nonetheless, there are going to be circumstances that you're going to have to back away from because of a safety issue as well. So just need to evaluate that, but I'm more than happy to meet with any of the members and just make sure we're all on the same page.
So we have four members who volunteered to man the homeless subcommittee, and we need a motion. Okay, I'll move to approve those 4 members. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
All those in favor?
What?
I said all those in favor say aye.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was just helping you along. You haven't had a lot of experience in this, so.
As opposed to a 20-year school board member. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Fine job. Fine job.
Thank you, I appreciate
With a little bit of
it. Okay.
help,
And
you go a long way in this world.
Okay, it's a year into it.
All right, so.
Okay, so,
It's not my turn. All of a sudden I'm nervous.
All you.
Well, thank you, Phil. You did a fabulous job. I appreciate it. I guess we just continue on to item number 6, homeless in parks.
Yes, so at the request of Chair Lopez, this item was agendized for discussion. So I don't know if you would like to express your concerns that you articulated over email, and then we can talk about that, and we'll go from there.
Okay, yes, so a lot of homelesses are at the parks, unfortunately, and a lot of complaints that we do get are from families. So in this particular email, the mother is complaining because, you know, not just unsanitary, they have their baseball game happening and they overtake the restrooms. They, you know, clutter, it's unsanitary, it's filthy. And the one that she found most disturbing is, you know, they're having sex in the restrooms, very loud, it's very uncomfortable. And, you know, children are around there. They hear it, they see it. So, you know, the mother is arguing and fighting that something has to be done. And so, you know, otherwise, you know, most people are going to start to leave. And I know a lot of times they, like you said, they just turn the other eye and, you know, pretend they don't see nothing happening. But it's just, they're overtaking the whole area. And they don't feel safe having their children use the restroom because they don't know what they'll find inside. And so there's just a lot of things, especially that there's a lot of programming happening at the parks. So that's why, you know, it goes back to what can be done, you know, what kind of enforcement. I know sometimes they did mention that by the time the police arrive, if they do call, they come, it's already, the deed is done, they're gone. And so they wanted to know if something could be done about the situation.
So that's a long answer. I mean, essentially it goes back to, are they doing something illegal? Well, being indecent public exposure, obviously that is not legal. So they have to reach out to PD for sure. And I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, when we get complaints, they will say the PD does not respond. And then you go back to the log and they never called. So that's the first hurdle that we're facing. So it's always, well, PD never responds, but then you go back and the call was never made, or the call was made substantially after they're reporting it happened. So you're getting a complaint that's saying it happened at noon, when really it happened at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? But they never called. So there's just a disconnect, and there's an education component going back to what Commissioner Din mentioned about, you know, people are upset. Noticeably, it's not something that's unique to West Covina. It's Southern California, all of California, to be honest with you. And I will tell you that the HOPE team from PD is very vigilant and very active in the parks. And in addition to that, you have to remember that if there is a home burglary or somebody being assaulted, that is going to take precedence over a lewd act in a public restroom, right? That makes sense. And we only have so many resources to spread throughout the community. So I can only urge residents that when there is something illegal going on, don't go, well, I don't really know if I should call, because that's the first thing that they think. And to be honest with you, women, more than men, don't want to offend, so they don't make that call. And that needs to stop. And the more that we educate our residents and our businesses, that the more calls we get, then we figure out, well, that's a hot spot, we have activity. Not that we don't common sense wise know, the people who work and live here know where our hot spots are, but you have to understand that there's certain times of day that peak activity is happening. There are certain repeat offenders, whether they're homeless or whether they're just an individual in our park doing something illegal. So we just have to have that reinforcement. I will follow up with that to say that on July 17th, next Tuesday night at the council meeting, our homeless plan will be before council for consideration of adoption.
That's coming up?
Yes, Tuesday night.
Is the predominance mental illness? Is it drug related, or is it simply just a young family that is, you know, looking for another opportunity, you know, to take care of whatever it is that they need to do to survive from day to day?
Sure, so I mean,
do you have a sense of where that?
I mean, our sense is that the perception by people is that the number one reason why people are homeless is because of mental health or substance abuse. That's not necessarily the number one cause in homelessness, period. However, the people that the staff see or residents and businesses see on a day-to-day during the broad daylight hours, they're typically chronic individual homeless. You don't typically see a family out, like Chair Lopez mentioned. Families who have potential resources or outlets are uncomfortable and embarrassed about the situation, which they shouldn't, because there really are resources for them. We recently worked with a rep from the school district to try to get a family into long-term housing, right? We have rapid rehousing dollars that we pledged to the county, and so we're working on that. But what you see and what we all see is the day-to-day chronic homeless who do not want services. But what I will tell you is the success story of 100 times you could be asking that person if they wanted help and they say no, right? And then the 101st time you ask them, they say, okay, I've had enough. I've been on the streets too long. So there are different components in the plan that council will have consideration, not that they have to necessarily act on, but just overarching goals that we're looking to get feedback on, and best practices that have worked. And ours is, as I've come to the commission and discussed, is beefier than some other cities based on our homeless count. Therefore, we were able to incorporate a little bit more detail than some of the other cities might.
I like Commissioner Stewart said, and I'm aware of what the situation going on at Walmart Auto Park, for instance. That seems to be one of the more visible areas, at least on this side of the city.
Yes.
So are those predominantly people who, if given an opportunity to go someplace other than in a park-like environment where young children are there, where baseball games going on, and other kinds of activities, would they just as soon be someplace else, or would they just as soon be there?
That's a complex question. I'll give you the best answer I can. The best answer is that you're going to have some that would be willing to take, if you just said, I'll give you a hotel voucher in West Covina, yes, I think the majority of them would say yes. But if you said, I have a long-term solution for you and it's outside of West Covina, absolutely not.
Yeah,
do not
right.
pass go, do not collect 200. They are not interested in that. If you have a situation where you say, I can get you a job, I can get you supportive services, I can get you help with your addiction, not interested. So it's
what is
multifaceted.
It about the park that makes it, about that park that makes it so interesting? Accessibility to restrooms, shade, a park-like environment?
Yeah, it's not any of that. I think it's a central point. So at the time where we had the winter shelter in town at St. Christopher's Church,
okay.
Remember the proximity of that particular park to St. Christopher's, to the recycling center, to a social security office. So they get their check, and then there's a multitude of services available, but then when that check is gone, where do they go? Well, they go to the park. And when they're not being able to stay at the shelter during the day, they go to the park. So that became a hub.
It's accessible.
It's accessible. It's close proximity
accessible
to where those services are located, and it becomes familiar, right? So it became familiar, and then even when they were going to the winter shelter, when it was transitioning to other cities, they were getting dropped off back at Walmart Auto Park. So Hope Team is obviously very acutely aware, but again, and I know this is frustrating for residents and businesses to hear, our homeless residents, if you don't consider them residents, that's one thing, homeless individuals and families have rights. I cannot go remove a homeless individual that is in a park during the day, enjoying the park like any other person.
They've got every right to
Absolutely.
do that. Where if there were a reasonable alternative,
Right.
where they're not, I can't imagine that somebody really has the sole purpose of, look, I just turned in my bottles and I got a voucher for it, I got some food I'm gonna eat, and now I wanna go make the environment at Walmart Auto Park as miserable as I can for all the rest of the children, just because it's convenient for me and I have a right to be here.
Sure. I think one of the things that you're considering is the rational, reasonable, sober person, right? So
right, but you already acknowledged that it wasn't mental health and it wasn't drugs.
No. I'm not saying that that's not a component. You asked if that was the reason why they're home. No, not necessarily. That contributes to it. And the longer people are on the streets, then they are using various substances.
Are they rational for the most part?
Well, what I'm saying is to say, I'm going to go to Walmart and I'm going to make it unreasonable for anybody else to come here. That would be a conscientious thought that person would be making. I don't think that's in the cards. I think it's more of, it's comfortable for me. They're leave me alone as long as I'm abiding by the law. But what you have is people are smoking pot, smoking cigarettes, which is not allowed. Council voted no smoking in parks, and doing lewd activities, etc. Could be other people, not just homeless. We can't always assume that it's homeless individuals. However, there is a cluster that is hanging out at Walmart. We all agree and understand that. I'm saying it's a multifaceted issue that if I just rolled in there today and I had comprehensive services and housing, you're still going to have people that do not want to take those services. It's just a sheer numbers game.
It just seems like, okay, I know it's an extremely complicated situation, but it would seem like, Glenn, you're kind of old, aren't you? You've been around here for a few years. Back in, the early, I gotta count, so early 60s, say for instance, the city of West Covina, when it had unlimited funding available, one of the choices that it had for young children was the recreation program. West Covina Recreation was an awesome program at the schools. Yeah, kindergarten rooms, whatever, used in the summer. And it was an opportunity. It was not chaperoned, but, there was adult supervision, well supervised. There was well supervised and given all kinds of different things to do. Is that a possibility? As they say, look, there are services available. There's a place where you can go. You can sit in the table. You can sit in the outside. You can, I don't know, play games.
Yeah, I don't think the school district is offering that at
I'm not
this
asking
point.
if they're
Yeah.
offering. I'm saying is that if given an opportunity to contribute to this essence, that perhaps they may offer that as a means during the summertime. I'm just talking about just that at this point, or after school, or anyways, some of the places where it can be something that is more likely to draw, as a better place for them to go, instead of a place where young kids are playing baseball and that. I just don't understand.
In going in conjunction with what you're saying, I know what I've noticed on certain parks that I've worked at with homeless issues, they normally congregate at places where people kind of just don't pay attention to them, and that's why parks are one of them. But I also noticed that when we have activities at those parks, so if we start doing certain activities, like like you said, like the after-school program or like festivals or whatever, anything that generates a lot of people, they tend to go away. So if Walmarado Park becomes active, has programming and so forth, they're going to tend to find another place that, as much as we don't want them, they're at the same situation where they want to be left alone too.
Right.
So if you're around there, hindering their area, then they're not going to want to stay. So if we can make Walmarado into like all the activities and programming there, they might move on to a different location.
If given a reasonable other opportunity, another source, another place to go, where, if you've ever walked from Santa Monica Pier to Venice Pier, you know that, you see it around a lot, but there is an area of congregation that it's reasonable, and they do all of the above that you just said, not the lewd conduct, I don't see that very often, but all of those other things, but it's isolated into an area.
Just like other cities or like they have it in the movies, they congregate in certain areas. Usually, normally it's like by the river or by certain areas. And ironically, people in the community may know that that's where they hang out, just don't go in that area. There's no need for families to go in that area. At the same time, they're okay. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind type of mentality.
And then a perfect opportunity for this, what's this HOPE? I assume that it's some sort of a acronym of some sort.
HOPE, Homeless Outreach Park Enforcement.
Perfect. And instead of having to go to 25 parks in the city, we're going to a specific place that says, you know what, we understand you have a problem, we welcome you to our city, and here's an opportunity where you're not going to get hassled, you're not going to be cause a problem, you're not going to, just thinking off the top of my head.
Commissioner Cox, most of the homeless at Walmarado, because Walmarado is our biggest league. There's a lot of activity there on the weekends, and for the most part, it's known on the weekends when games are going. Disperse, leave. There's an understanding.
So
that's the way it goes.
Exactly.
On that particular weekend, don't know why, obviously we addressed the issue, reached out to the league. We're working with the league to communicate to to the police department as well. Not sure why that weekend the people chose to do those acts there and cause a scene, but usually they leave, they disperse. League has a relationship with them, all the parks, I think Glenn can attest to this. When I go work on the splash pad, I got the people there that I work with that I talk to, and they know when it's busy, leave,
At Del Norte, we have games, they have a mutual understanding. Either leave or, because we've got a lot of coaches that are gangsters. And things will get
We have to
handled.
go the other
Yeah,
way.
I mean, that's just the truth.
So you just flip one for the other, but, yeah, I appreciate that, but we drive by Walmart Auto Park
During the week.
every single night after 5 o'clock. And, and there's, it's not, if you didn't know any better and they were dressed a little bit nicer, you were thinking, man, this is a wonderful park that's being utilized by everybody in our community. Okay, fine, well, let's just move that someplace else. I don't want to throw them out, I don't want to make them uncomfortable, I want to offer them, the help for their situations. They may be short-term, they may be long-term, they may be mental, they may be drug-related, but at least we can identify and move towards those situations at that time.
Okay, well, the homeless task force has a task on its own, and I know we'll be dealing and working with PB and attorney and staff.
I'll say one thing before we get on, but Mike, you notice that Walmart right now, it's probably good for the kids because they're shielding, they're putting the tarps on the inside of the chain link fence. Every field has got tarps all the way around. It's good for the kids, it's good for the game. But at nighttime, when they're all gone, it's bad for the police. They can't see in any of those fields. It's all blocked off. You can't see anything.
I got a question, since you brought that up. So, with Walmart, they're charging to watch the All-Star games?
The tournament, yes, they charge for the tournament.
Is that legal?
Yes,
It is
for
legal.
the tournament, yes.
So
Only on the- not on
they're
the city field, not on the city field. but
they're
just
getting
the field.
the fields for free, and then they're still charging? I have an issue with that.
Not for our city field, for the district field, and they're not.
So
using
the two fields, so they're
So-
charging for the two fields that are on school district property.
Correct.
And now the
So-
school district is charging for.
So the school district is charging, they don't charge us, we use one of their fields. In
Now,
fact, we
They're-
use two of
they're
their
new
fields.
They're charging
Wait,
now.
wait,
Charging now.
we're not talking about, isn't there a baseball game coming up this weekend? Is it this weekend or the weekend after? Isn't it an all-star game? Major league ball players and all that sort of
Yes.
stuff. And you charge and you pay considerable amounts of money. You're talking children. Children using our school facilities?
They're paying for all fields, you're gonna have to pay for every school field moving forward. It was just brought out at the last sports council meeting, and every field, practice field, there'll be a charge for it. Every league is going to
This
pay the
is going on
district.
for
Yeah,
30
soccer's
years.
bill
This
is
is not,
$12,000.
it happened recently, this has been going on for a long time.
How long is a long time?
No, the
At
school
least 25 years.
The tournament, yes, for the.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, well, then if that's the case, from 1994 to
No, even
2014,
longer than
it was an absolute necessity for doing that. But subsequent to that, I don't see that whatsoever.
Pony has been charging for their tournament since,
At Del Mar?
I've been here for 17 years, since I can remember they've been charging for that on the two fields that are the school district fields that we do not control.
I understand.
No.
On our city fields, which is, it's our part, we're not gonna pay anything. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item 7, CDBG project at Cortez Community and Senior Center.
Sure, so to give you an update, approved in the CDBG action plan, which went to council just recently. The restrooms in the main hall of the Cortez Community and Senior Center will be renovated. If you've not been to the Senior Center and seen the restrooms over the years, they just really need updating, ADA accessibility. We're holding doors open, there's no push door access. We're also going to be doing the flooring in the north wing and the reader board on the street side. So currently, right now, it's the old reader board with the hanging letters, and part of the beautification and the name change that this commission approved was to change the reader board out, so it's going to be an electronic reader board, and so those projects will be done with CDBG funding this year.
A couple of questions about this. The actual item that was approved by the city council that said renovation of the north building. Is that just going to be the flooring, or is there more to it than that?
So it's as far as I remember, it was just the flooring. So CDBG has to do with accessibility. So the restrooms in the main hall and then the north wing flooring.
Okay. So my concern was how a renovation, or certainly one on a larger scale, would affect the classes and meetings that go on in the north building.
Yeah, we'll shuffle everything around accordingly. Anytime we've had it, just like when we had the main hall flooring done, we canceled and moved the scheduling of the construction according to what we had for meal service and et cetera.
So hopefully there won't be much disruption.
It'll be minimal.
Yeah.
They'll do most work at night
Yeah.
and try to book it on the weekend. You know, it's like a 4 or 5 day. You know, it's smaller than the main hall. The main hall was 5 days. They did it at night, but as you know, we'll try to impact as least as we can. And then if we have to move anything around, we use alternate locations.
Okay, thank you.
Item 8, Miss Covina pageant.
Okay, this item was requested by former Chair Kaufman.
Yeah, I had some concerns about this. Former Commissioner Taylor gave us a little information, but this originally came up, as part. Actually, the first I heard of it was the presentation that she and Commissioner Din and a few other people made before the City Council a couple of months ago as part of the Councilmember Wu's night market event. And I have some personal thoughts about pageants in general, but as far as a Miss West Covina pageant, this appears to be a private organization put together for this project. But my primary concern, is that it appears to be a sanctioned event of the city of West Covina, and I've got a lot of problems, with that appearance, where it's not an event the city is putting on, really has nothing to do with. And I just wonder what type of oversight, or how it would be regulated, if at all, to protect any city interests that might be involved. And you talk about who is eligible to engage in the pageant. Are there questions about limiting certain? Is it a Miss West Covina pageant? Is it open to men and women? How is that going to work? And what possible liability would the city have?
So,
Yeah.
Same thing, gonna be people.
So I don't.
So if I can start, first of all, typically pageants are a private, proprietary thing that whatever respective agency or business puts on. Miss West Covina is not, I can't have proprietary ownership. The city can't over that name. People can call their business names. They can say West Covina something or other. West Covina Ford, West Covina Chevrolet, whatever it might be. So having said that, first and foremost, this was not brought forward by staff. The West Covina pageantry, or Miss West Covina, a few years ago, I was approached by an organization that said, hey, if you have events, please let Miss West Covina know, and she'll come to the events and wave and sign autographs and do it. That was to the extent of where it was requested, and then it kind of fell off. And I think Ms. Taylor spoke about that. Kind of fell off, and now it's being resuscitated in one way or another. And the night market art festival is postponed until the spring due to planning and logistics. And I think that as far as whether or not the city's given its seal of approval, if an organization wants to partner with another organization to add an amenity, just like we don't police their trucks, their food trucks, or their vendors, we wouldn't be policing that either. So I wanted to make that kind of clarification before Commissioner Din spoke.
Oh, okay. And I just want to explain, to answer a lot of the concerns. Well, first of all, before I addressed all those issues, I want to remind the public and all our commissioners that our commission is to act in advisory capacity to the City Council, and that's foremost. And no, this was not on a whim that we are trying to organize this. And Ms. Sandra Taylor had mentioned earlier that Ms. Gail Mason and herself had been contemplating on bringing it back for many years now. And yes, the art festival, the night market, is a city event concocted by Mayor Pro Tem Tony Wu, to bring about funds for the city, so much needed funds. And since he knew that we were a newly formed nonprofit organization and we don't have the necessary budget, he reached out to us to provide us a venue, or rather a stage, that we could use for our pageant. And the other concern was about the Miss West Covina pageant, having to come before the commission for discussion and approval. Since the pageant is a nonprofit organization, it does not use any city funds. It's not required to come before the commission for discussion or approval. We did bring it forth to the city council a few months ago with our plans. And as concerned about a commission having a say in deciding, participant qualifications, judging, city oversight, we have a group of board members who are very capable of doing that. Just like other nonprofits in the city, such as the Greater West Covina, which I am a board member on, the Kiwanis, etc., they're doing just fine without any city oversight. And the last takeaway note from all this is that nonprofits are self-governing, meaning that they are separate from the government. And my last thought is that West Covina, let's not let negativity and skepticism derail us from making things happen and great things to happen in West Covina.
I'm actually supportive of this. We are in the Commission for Community and Senior Services, so we need to have these community events or these programming and so forth that tailor. And in our city, we have a variety of different groups. I mean, we cater to the youth, to the seniors. It's something positive, it's something different, and just a lot of times we go through a lot of different personal situations or work and so forth. The community needs outlet, and this is a good positive outlet. It's an alternative. So I mean, that's great, and it's something good that can come out of it, role models and so forth. And they're a future. So I support it, and I think it's great. Okay.
How long has the nonprofit organization been in existence?
Oh, we just created it a few months ago. So I went ahead and got the 501c corporation, and I'm currently trying to get funding, reaching out, and it is a very difficult task, which I may be handling back to Ms. Taylor and Ms. Mason. I've been doing all this on my own time, driving, since I don't work, every day I'm going out to different businesses, recruiting them, getting donation, and that is not likely of me to go ask for money. It is tough, and it's kind of embarrassing.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and so far I've had a few people helping me who want to help us, donating money, like Athens, and flower shop, making the bouquets and stuff for us. But that's kind of tough.
Has the organization, the nonprofit organization, done any kind of preliminary surveys or asked for participation or interest of participation in the program and received any response back?
Yeah, well, I went on the...
I mean, how many people in the city of West Covina are interested in,
Being Miss West Covina.
participating in this type of an event?
Well, I think as Ms. Sandra Taylor mentioned earlier, this is something that they've been trying to put together for the last
How
few
many?
years.
Did you get any response back?
Well, you're not going to get a number, just like election. We have 110,000.
But there is a number though.
There
was a response back. Somebody sent out surveys and you got a response back.
Well,
What
when
was
we
the
don't have a
response?
budget, how are we to send out surveys or anything like that? All we could do is put it out.
So I'm wrong that there were no surveys or anything put out, not by necessarily this nonprofit organization, but any entity, any type of thing, was there any survey or request for response back from members of the community that are interested to participate?
Well, you see it on social media, a lot of the people.
No, I'm just talking written, sent out, written responses back.
No. And, I think it's ridiculous how the pageant is being like it's on trial for something that they want to do for the community. just because a few people don't like the idea. I mean, there's going to be events, you know, catering to different groups, that group, that. And I went on West Covina Buzz, and there were people on there, well, what about the LBG? This is nothing against the LBG community or anything like that, but there are their own groups that do different things in the community. Now, this is just a small separate group tailoring to the young women of West Covina to be ambassadors, to represent our city, so that when we have grand openings or events at the city, any city event, you know, these girls can represent our city with pride and dignity for our city. I mean, we're just trying to come up with events for the city, and it doesn't have to be scrutinized, you know, down to why are you doing this, or what's your intention. Let's just make something out of it for the girls or the ambassadors of the city.
When you're starting a new project, with including any events that even our city holds, the first time, you don't know how it's going to turn out.
I think the problem is, and I think Phil was probably, he was there in attendance, I was one of the 17 watching the council meeting when this came up, and it was talked about this, what was it, arts and other program? Paprika, that's what, I thought it was the cinnamon or something like that. Okay. Paprika, right, okay, so they're going to do this, and they wanted Chris and the council to fork out, you know, $10,000 worth of fees and services and relinquishment of funds for this for this for-profit organization to have tens of thousands of people who are going to congregate in 6 weeks, of which you absolutely never heard of anything about it, none whatsoever. You know, and we're going to come in and say we're going to do this. A for-profit organization is going to sponsor this, among other things, this beauty pageant. You know, out of nowhere. We didn't hear about it. We didn't know anything about it. I was embarrassed. I don't know anything about this. You know, so it's not the reason or rationale that you're saying that it's not wanted. It's just sort of, okay, this is was it 2 weeks ago, or maybe a month ago? So we're looking at about less than 2 months, and we're anticipating tens of thousands of people coming in, and obviously, since it's going to be postponed to the spring, is there a specific date that's been done? I mean,
No date. We're looking at May of 2019.
Well, the for-profit organization putting it together, we found out afterwards that their next presentation has never done it before.
Even better.
So it's just their first time, so that's...
Well, like you said.
Okay, so, you know, I got something to say. So when I was growing up, we got Miss West Covina. In fact, my sister's Miss West Covina, I think, 1977.
Really?
All the girls from Edgewood won every year, absolutely. And as I recall, my sister was sponsored by Don's Mobile, which was at the corner of Orange and Medilla back in the day. All the girls, as I remember, had a sponsor. I don't think the city had put no money into it, no nothing. I think it was at, as I recall, one was at the mall and one was at the Elks, as I recall. So it was a private thing then, and everybody liked the fact that they had Miss West Covina show up for all grand openings. Everybody likes that. So what is the issue? The issue is what? You might have a guy want to do it. Well, what the hell? Let him do it. You know, if he wants to be Miss West Covina a guy, then so be it.
then why not change the title?
Or a different category.
Well, you know, it's for the women, but you can't discriminate. You just can't. You know,
why have a program that...
Some people have traditions.
Yeah, but
It's,
really?
So what do you want to call it?
And it's, huh?
What do you want to call it? If you don't want to call it Miss West Covina, then what are you going to call it?
The young person's
Point of order.
talent.
Madam Chair, point of order. This is completely outside of the scope of this discussion and this body. If you guys want to continue talking about this on your own time, that's fine, but frankly, this is not something that is within the purview of this commission. This is a private entity, and frankly, if you guys want to have a discussion on your own time about a private entity, I think the rest of the commission has graciously listened to everyone banter about this for I think enough time. So if my point of order would stand, I think it's time to move on.
well said. Okay, moving on. So item number 9, facility reports for May 2018.
Does anybody have any questions about the facility report?
Yeah, I do. I wonder why there's all these breakdowns of paid fee classes, excursions, special events, but there's no breakdown of the free classes. I wonder why that is, and why isn't there a breakdown showing attendance at the classes that aren't charged?
We can add those to the next facility reports going forward. Mount SAC keeps their own rosters, so we can get a listing of the number.
Okay, there are free classes outside of Mount SAC sponsorship, aren't there? Like the watercolor class, that's been going on since before Mount
I
SAC.
thought the watercolor class was through Mount SAC.
But I think that, I thought it wasn't, I could be wrong.
Okay. I'll double check.
Okay.
Continued business, ad hoc committee reports. Capital Improvement Project Group met to discuss, was that for you to mention? For the ad hoc committee reports?
Yeah, we just wanted to mention on there, and it says Capital Improvement Project Group met to discuss the playground projects for the upcoming fiscal year with Measure A funding. So something to keep in mind is that Measure A funding is being challenged legally, and so the city is reserving the right to hold off. We're going to still apply for projects, but we're going to hold off to receive any of that funding, even though it's technically our funding that we're applying for, because if it gets reversed, then we would have to pay back the funding. So considering our current fiscal issues, we're going to wait until that legal issue gets cleared up before we take any Measure A monies. But we're still going to move forward in the planning process.
So where's Measure A at in the, I guess in terms of the legal challenge?
Sure. So the last meeting a few weeks ago was that the Regional Park Open Space had appealed, and or that the legal team, the opposition team had appealed, and it had still been upheld. So it's looking promising to still move forward, and it would be no different than previous prop funding that goes for parks. So it's interesting that there is litigation currently.
If I could mention a couple of things. Like you said, it was upheld and that's being appealed, and the appellate process can take who knows how long. And at the meeting, they did say that they intended to start paying out money this fall. Do you know, have other cities also refused to take the money at this point?
So I want to clarify, because their timeline, when they're saying that they're going to pay out, no, the call for projects will be, so what happens is that there's an application process. They will notify all of the cities at once and say, here you go. We all have our different reps depending upon which area, and I know Chair Lopez understands this as well, that you get a call for projects. You have to submit an application. The application is basically your scope of service, what your project's going to be, and then they'll say yay or nay. They give you the thumbs up, thumbs down, send you back saying this is what we're estimating the project, here's the cost, and then you move on and do an RFP depending upon what you're doing for the scope of work. So what I'm saying is we're going to continue to move forward in that process of looking at our park projects, but at the point of where we would actually collect the money, that's where we would hold off until we know where they're at in the court proceedings.
So if we don't request any projects and funding this year, and it subsequently is upheld, and then funds are available next year, we would have lost out on this year.
No, so the money is on the tax roll, so it's still coming into the city. So what I'm saying is we're going to still apply for the projects. We just won't draw down those funds and take the money and do the project, because we would have to then pay back from general fund
So
dollars.
the funds would be there, this won't be used.
Yeah, the funds are going to be there. There's no sunset clause in this Measure A funding, as I've explained to this commission before. So that means that there's going to be an ongoing, the $350,000 to $400,000 is our estimated annual return. That's not including our maintenance and servicing funds. So maintenance and servicing funds are, let's say that we build a new playground project. So that's new. Moving forward, we get to maintain that project as a new budget because we didn't have a playground project to begin with. If we say went in and renovated restrooms, we could use the money for restroom project. The problem is now we can't use any maintenance and servicing funds because we had a restroom. What are you then going to maintain that's new? You may have a couple $1,000s, a few $100s, but nothing substantial. So as we'll move forward in this process, this commission, along with the community, came up with the secondary park needs assessment list, and that may continue to get updated as this commission deems necessary to recommend to council. So I think...
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. If somebody had their hand up before me, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead.
No, we don't want to be called out of order, so you go ahead.
No, I just wanted to kind of follow up with regard to the the funding that's out there. Who is the ultimate guarantor in the event that this thing is overturned? So let's say that we did actually collect on the money that would be allocated for this year, and then subsequently, let's say the California Supreme Court opines and says this is unconstitutional. Ultimately, who is responsible? Which entity is responsible? Generally speaking, when we have an unconstitutional tax or something like that, the responsible entity is usually based on whatever revenue stream was drawn upon previously. It's typically not thrust upon an individual city, for example, or general fund. So what is the understanding at this point in time with regard to that? Is it something where this money, if we did draw upon it, because I think we desperately need some improvements to our parks. Who's the ultimate responsible party in the event that we draw on it? And this is.
They're making all cities sign a waiver that if you take the money, you need to understand that if it gets overturned, you will end up having to pay the money back. So each city.
How is it that they're requiring a waiver as a condition of what they're required to do by operation of law?
I mean, it's conditional of the grant acceptance. So if you're going to
then I think the city needs to get into court right now and basically say that waiver is completely unconstitutional on its face. That's what should happen. I don't think that signing a waiver as condition of collecting your own money is something that the county, as the tax collecting entity, can actually do, because ostensibly they're holding the money in trust for the city. So I still don't understand. If you can follow up with the city attorney's office on that and figure out exactly why it is that they're doing that, I think that's kind of absurd on its face, but I'll leave it there.
Has that waiver been signed already?
No, because they haven't called for projects. So again, there's a timetable. So it's going to be fall of this year that they're going to release the request, and then it'll be about spring when projects start to go forward.
Okay, any questions? All right, moving on. Commissioners report. We'll start with Commissioner Din.
Nothing to report.
I have a couple of questions. I was approached by members of the community who are involved with walking at the Edgewood track, and they were asking whether or not it was going to be open. It's open till 8 o'clock at night. They're asking whether or not it's going to be open in the late fall through the winter when it's dark at 4 and 5 o'clock. But then I come to find out that it's the city that pays for the electricity there.
We have a joint use agreement where in order to keep the track open for our community, the city pays for the lighting on the track. That is correct.
Okay, interesting. And it's going to be open, and we can afford to do that?
Wouldn't change from what we've done in the past. We have a joint use, so even if there was no availability to do the track.
So the school district is not, since they've been given $143 million to do an upgrade and all this other stuff, but so there's no intent for, in effect, to reward the community for for that sum of money available for capital improvements to fund that small little component of it, and yet we do it at the expense of the city?
Currently, that is our agreement.
Well, that's interesting.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and then I'm not finished yet. And do you have any idea? Do we have a similar agreement for West Covina High School so that when they're done with that
no, we do not have the same
multi-million-dollar upgrade?
Yeah, no, we are not paying for the track lighting there.
Taxpayers of the district, and there's not an equal thing. So why wouldn't the city do it there and at Edgewood and not West Covina, or Nogales for that matter? Do we have the same program for Nogales?
We do not. The agreement's been in place for several years. It was revised to remove the pool effective July 1st. We no longer maintain the basketball court lighting or the tennis court lighting as well.
But we do for the track.
We do for the track.
Significantly more expensive utilization of much more expensive lights. Did we have a choice as lights? Because it used to be that just those dim yellow lights that would be around and that, so I'm sure they were much less expensive than these entire banks of lights that are available now.
Yeah, I mean, we on that particular meter, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I think that we have a special rate on that particular meter from years gone by. But it's something that obviously we will be monitoring this year and be looking to revisit that agreement.
Yeah. And then one other change of subject. At a city council meeting several months ago, I guess it was now, a woman got up in public session, at the end of the public session, and asked and talked to the city council and begged the city council to provide swimming lessons in the city. Has the city done anything to act on that request from that person?
Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
No, you go ahead.
So previous commission meeting, Mike spoke about the request to look at Bainbridge HOA.
Right,
we did, and that was
thrown
scrapped. We also reached out to a private contractor to look at offering swim lessons through our recreation program or just independently to offer it as a service. And that partnership did not work out, that fizzled out. The city also markets the other neighboring cities to offer their swim lessons so that we can still provide that information for marketing and outreach where families want to go. But at this point, we do not have a pool and we do not have a program.
And once the Edgewood Sports Complex is complete, again, that's still
up in the air. The hope is, and all conversations have been in discussion about moving forward with a partnership. We don't know what that will look like. We don't know what the pool looks like. So as we move forward and the construction begins, obviously talks will begin to see what that looks like.
all right. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
The only other comment, we don't know how the agreement will look or what's going to move forward. What I will say is no matter what happens, they're looking at making that facility cost, recovering some cost in that facility. That's not going to happen without swim lessons. We can't say whether it's going to be the district that does it. We can't say it's the city that's going to do it. Not sure how that's going to work out.
Private.
What's
Could it
that?
be private?
It could be private. It could be an outside contractor. We haven't crossed that bridge
Are we
yet.
going to get the same deals we got on the Edgewood lighting?
Not sure how that agreement's going to
Or
work
no,
out.
better than that, are we going to get the same deal as we get for the Little League All-Star field usage?
I think-
Commissioner Cox, we're going to do the best we can to get the best deal for the
That we're going to
community.
get for the Performing
I
Arts
think
Center?
what I can articulate to you is that moving forward, the joint use agreements will be beneficial and be advantageous, cost-effective, whatever that looks like. So if there's going to be a benefit for the city or the community over here, or a benefit for the school district, we're going to look at weighing all those options.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, there's been a lot of great city events, several of which I was able to attend. 4th of July celebration last weekend I thought was fabulous. You had a tremendous crowd. The facility worked great. Smoking Cobra was sensational. And everything was great except some adjustments with the parking are the only problem, and hopefully we'll do it again next year there and work out the parking situation and get Smoking Cobra to come back again. I also was at the Cancer Society Relay for Life walk last month. That was a great event, a lot of uplifting stories from survivors, and walked for a couple of hours with a lot of interesting people. The Lions Night on the Town was another great event this year. A lot of great restaurants again provided free food and music, and great evening there. Memorial Day event was another good event put on by the city with some good speakers. The second active shooter presentation was done last month, and that was really well done this time. I think it was much more relevant, important, and instructive than the first time it was done last year. Measure A meeting was also informative. We've gone over that. Lieutenant Allen in the Police District 1 had another one of his Coffee with the Cop events, and we're able to talk to him about police procedures and things going on in our district as far as public safety is concerned. And we've had a couple of great concerts so far with Cold Duck and Guardians of the 70s, and tomorrow night will be My Generation, another great group. So those are a few things that I've done since our last week.
Commissioner Kennedy.
No, I think I've been to all the ones you've been to. I don't miss much. I will say one thing. The Coffee with the Cop is a really good thing. I encourage everybody to come. Lieutenant Ron Allen really does a fantastic job, and we need more people to show up. I will give kudos to the city. I really didn't think 4th of July was going to work, and man, it was awesome. You guys did an awesome job. I mean, wow. Everything went off smooth. I couldn't be happier. You know, just because there's no parking up there. How we got everybody up there and no problems. And I think we should have it there next year. That was awesome. Good job, Chris.
So the one event I'll highlight is the May 10th City Consultant Homeless Plan, that presentation. You know, it was interesting. It was an interesting presentation regarding Measure H and how we're going to apparently move forward as a city. Needless to say, I came out of that presentation with more questions than answers. I think it's a lot of pie in the sky stuff, and frankly, I think, and frankly, I hope that the homeless subcommittee can do a better job of steering the city toward, frankly, getting close to some better outcomes for the homeless in our city than what was outlined in that presentation. Because I mean, the idea that this city is going to have, you know, a homeless shelter is just laughable. I mean, it's just laughable. So we need to have a real conversation with regard to that, and hopefully that's something that we can discuss further in the context of the subcommittee that was newly formed. So I'll leave it there.
Commissioner Pena.
I'm just looking forward to working on the subcommittees.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair. Well, I don't miss too many meetings, so I've been most of the things that they've talked about. I just have to give kudos to the people who put on the 4th of July. I mean, that thing was awesome for the odds that we had against us to start with. They said there were 6,000 people there. That's the number I heard, but I don't know if that's right or not. But anyway, there were a lot of people there, and that they pulled it off really good. So everybody in charge, thank you very much, and I think next year it might be there again. Another thing too, you know, you would think it'd be important. I go to all the meetings and the budget meetings and everything. You think it'd be important to the residents, but I can tell you, the budget meeting, and one of them we had here at 6:30, there was 5 people, 5 residents there when the budget meeting started. Shows a non-interest. They had about 15 when the thing was over, but that was it. But anyway, I had one question on the facility reports. On the daycare, if that's an average there, and one of them only has 11, why don't we combine them into 3 and say the one daycare at some location?
Well, funny that you should mention that. We have.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so we did combine Orangewood and West Cove. The school district needed the portable for moving forward with education programs. So we closed the Orangewood daycare site effective July, well technically it's effective July 27th, but we actually transitioned last week over to West Cove. So we now have both of those programs running for the rest of the summer, and then officially fall, we start up with the Orangewood and West Cove sites combined.
That makes sense.
So, yep.
Anyway, I think I'll be happy to help you.
Thank you. I do have to say kudos. The 4th of July was beautiful. All ages loved it, young and old. The music was great. It was for all of ages. And the only thing was the shuttling, of course, at the end, because I stayed back for a little bit. The line was just long, so maybe we could, you know, change that up or work with something on that. But all good comments. And then I think that's pretty much it. I know we have movies tonight at 7:30 at the mall, so I won't be making that. Anything else?
I just wanted to add, I missed out on the July 4th because I gave in to all the negativity and the criticisms that I heard on social media about our city. Why are we moving in over there? It's always been at Edgewood, and I've read all that stuff, and I wish I didn't, and so I ended up not going. And I'm so glad to hear that it was a success. It's just right back at it.
Definitely.
And I'm always for trying something new. If it doesn't work, we scratch it. If it works, you just never know. So we never know what the outcome will be. So in this case, it was grand. Items to be agendized. That's anything? No, and then upcoming events, you could read everything there. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion?
Second.
Second. And that ends our meeting.
All in favor?
All
Aye.
in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Can we get a roll call
Opposed?
vote
Yeah.
for that?
Okay, thank you, have a good night.